Hi friends, Miss Kristi here, and I am so excited to be together again cooking in the kitchen. Today we are learning how to make cheesy egg and tot breakfast bites. These breakfast bites are warm and fluffy, they are a bit crunchy and a bit cheesy too. We're gonna have fun making these together today, and I'm so glad you're here. Now, the first step to cooking and working in the kitchen is to wash our hands. While I wash my hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds, let's go over the ingredients and supplies that you'll need to cook along today. The ingredients you need are 3 eggs, 2 string cheese, 4 crescent rolls, 6 tater tots that have been thawed, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon pepper, and cooking spray. The supplies you need are a cutting board, muffin tin, oven mitts for safety, a liquid measuring cup, a whisk, pizza cutter, 1/4 teaspoon, and a butter knife. Okay, great. My hands are clean, your hands are clean. We've gathered our ingredients and supplies, so let's get started. The very first step in making these breakfast bites is to preheat our oven to 375 degrees. That's what they'll cook on, so I'm gonna preheat my oven. All right, while the oven is preheating, let's make these cheesy egg and tot breakfast bites. The next thing we're gonna wanna do is grab your muffin tin and we're going to spray it with cooking spray. If you don't have cooking spray, not a huge deal. When they're done, they might just be a little bit harder to get out, but spraying it with cooking spray helps to, so that they don't stick to the muffin tin. So I'm gonna spray mine quick. And then you can just set your muffin tin to the side because we're gonna use that in a minute, but there's some other things we have to do first. So after the muffin tin is done, we're going to grab our crescent roll dough. Now, kind of like last week when we did the mini breadsticks, when we buy a crescent roll pack, it's usually in 8, and we only need to use 4 of them. So you're just gonna kind of break it in half, and we only need 4 crescent rolls for this, to make these breakfast bites. So grab your crescent roll, and we're just going to kind of try to unroll it into 2 squares, and then we're gonna cut it with our pizza cutter because we need 6 strips at the end to roll up our breakfast bites. So you kind of just want to unroll your crescent dough, and the best you can is just to kind of get it into 2 squares. Okay, so you can kind of see how they're in 2 triangles per square, just because that's how crescent rolls come out of the container. And then I'm just going to kind of push them into a square or rectangle shape so we can cut some strips, is the goal. So I'm just kind of smushing it together so that they're no longer triangles. All right. Once you have your 2 squares, you're gonna grab your pizza cutter, and again, we're gonna make 6 breakfast bites, so we need to cut 6 strips. So on each square, we're gonna do 3. So 1, and try to make them the same size. That way our breakfast bites will cook evenly. So 3 on one, and then I'm gonna cut 3 strips on the other. So now we have 6, and you can put your pizza cutter to the side because that's all we needed that for. And now I'm just going to kind of lay them in a line, which makes assembling our breakfast bites a little bit easier. And then you can kind of just push them together more if you need to. Okay. And if any of them are kind of coming apart because they were triangle shapes and we turned them into long rectangles, you can kind of just push your dough together Not a huge deal. Still gonna kind of roll up. All right. So we have our 6 strips of dough. Yay, exciting. The next thing we're gonna do is grab our 2 string cheese. And you just kind of want to take the wrapper off if they're in a wrapper. So string cheese. And now each string cheese is kind of just going to be for 3 of the strips. And all you're going to do is just pull off some string cheese and lay it right down on your little dough strip that we made. And like I said, 1 string cheese should be enough for 3 strips. You can kind of pull it apart, make them even. But how easy is that? And then the other string cheese, I'm gonna put on my other 3 strips. Just pulling it off. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just making our breakfast bites cheesy, so it does not have to be perfection. And if you're making this and you don't like cheese, you could always definitely just leave this part out. Again, when I say you get to cook for yourself, you get to make some decisions. So if you don't like cheese or you can't have cheese, then you could just leave this part out. All right, we have our dough, we have our cheese, and now we're gonna take our tater tots. So we need 6 tater tots because we have 6 strips of dough. And these are thawed. So what does that mean? They were in the freezer and then I let them sit out on the counter in like a little bowl for about a half an hour. That way when we cook them, they're gonna get done. If you took them right out of the freezer and we tried to cook them inside our dough, they wouldn't get really cooked. So they just need some time to come to room temperature, which is what they are doing when they're thawing. So I have 6 tater tots. They've thawed for about 30 minutes just sitting on the counter, and now you're just gonna place a tater tot at the end of each roll. Yeah, we'll fix that one in a second. Okay. Because then we're gonna roll them up. All right. He doesn't want to stay. That's all right. All right, so our tater tots are placed, and now we're just gonna roll them up. Oh, one's not gonna have a tater tot, and that's okay. All right, so what we're gonna do now is just gonna roll them up and place them in our tin. So put your tin in front of you and take your little breakfast bite, and you're just going to roll it up around your tater tot. And then it kind of makes this little cheesy tater tot bite. And we set it right in the middle of our tin. So this one's not gonna have a tater tot, totally fine. If you don't like tater tots, then you could do it without. So this will be a good example of one without a tater tot and just a cheesy roll that'll have some egg in it. So we'll put that in the middle. All right, so again, I'm just rolling these up. And you kind of want to pinch the end a little bit, that way they stay together. They will cook in your tin, which will kind of help hold the shape too. So if they come apart a little bit, not a huge deal. We put some egg around it too, so that kind of helps keep it together. Roll them up. And put them together. Put them in your tin. This one here, without the tater tot, is not happy today, so that's all right. We're just gonna smush it the best we can. Cooking is not perfect, and that's okay. All right, and this one came undone. There we go. Just kind of smushing it together. Okay, so now we have them all rolled up and they're sitting in their little tins, which is perfect. And now we wanna add the egg that's going to kind of surround them. So take your liquid measuring cup. This is where we're going to crack the egg and whisk it together. So we're not actually measuring anything in here today. We're just using this because it makes it easier to pour. So take an egg and cracking your egg. The best way I do it is just gently tap it on the side and then pour it in. And if you get a shell in here, that's okay, because then you can kind of take a spoon and scoop out the shell, which is why I like to not do it right in whatever we're cooking. But we need 3 eggs cracked into our liquid measuring cup. Get some practice cracking eggs today. Okay, and then we're done with that. Now you're gonna grab your whisk, and I just like to kind of break up the yolks before I start trying to mix it together. I'm just kind of like smushing them down in there, and then you're just gonna whisk it. So we're kind of making it into that yellow color. If your whisk is too big for your measuring cup or whatever bowl you might be using, just grab a fork too. That'll fit inside your measuring cup, and you're just kind of mixing it all together. All right. And I'm just gonna set this to the side for a second because I will need it in just a minute when we mix in our salt and pepper. All right, next grab your salt and your 1/4 teaspoon. So it's the tiny one, it says 1/4, and we need 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm just measuring that in, and dump it right on top of your eggs. Okay. And then we'll need the same thing with our pepper. So 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Scoop it in, same teaspoon that we used, the 1/4. Just kind of dump it in. All right. And if you don't like a lot of pepper, you can use less pepper too. If you don't like pepper at all, then don't add it. Again, those choices that you get to make for yourself. Take your whisk again, and we're just gonna mix that together so we don't get huge chunks of salt or pepper in our egg mixture. And this is kind of the last step before we pop them in the oven. Okay, so you're done with your whisk. You can put that to the side. Grab your muffin tin. So we see they're all sitting in here nicely, waiting to be cooked. If any of them unrolled, no big deal. Just kind of stretch that dough and pinch them closed again. And what we're gonna do is you're going to pour your egg into each muffin cup about halfway full. Once we do halfway, if we have a little bit left, we can add some more to each one, but we wanna start with adding about half of it full for your muffin tin, so each breakfast bite gets some eggs. So I'm just pouring, and it's going around, so I'm kind of pouring it to the side of our bite, and we're just pouring these around. Here's our tater tot-less one. We'll see how he turns out. It's gonna be like yummy, cheesy, eggy bread. So if you don't like tater tots, like I said, you can skip that part and just do egg and cheese and bread. All right, so we're pouring halfway. And again, this is why we used our liquid measuring cup, because it makes it easier to pour than trying to like scoop out egg. I like easy, so that's good. Last one. All right, and then I have a little bit left over, so I'm just gonna kind of go back and find ones that maybe need a little bit more, just to use all of our eggs. Okay, perfect. So they don't look like much now, but I promise you when they come out of the oven, they're gonna be fluffy and they're gonna be eggy. My daughters love these, so they are gonna go in the oven for 15 minutes. And then we take them out, and then I let them cool for about 2 minutes before we try to take them out of the tin. Let's get these in the oven and set the timer for 15 minutes, and then we'll see how they look when they're done. All right, great. Our 15-minute timer just went off, so now we need to get our breakfast bites out of the oven carefully. So put your oven mitts on for safety. We're gonna take them out and set them on the counter. I have like a pot holder on my counter just so we protect the counter. And then we're gonna let them cool for 2 minutes. So take them out, set them on the counter, don't touch it. It's gonna be very hot, and we're gonna let them cool for 2 minutes. All right, friends, it's cooled for about 2 minutes. I've turned the oven off, so don't forget to do that, very important. And now we're just gonna pop them on a plate. So I've got a plate here, and this is where the butter knife comes in handy, just to try to get them out if they're sticking a little bit. So if you just take your butter knife and just kind of scoop them up underneath, and then we put them on a plate. And how cute are these? Little tiny breakfast bites. They've got cheese and egg and a crunchy tater tot in the middle. So they look really good. Now, I do want to mention that these made 6 breakfast bites. If you don't eat them all at once, you can put them in the refrigerator in a container with a lid for about 3 or 4 days. And when you're ready to eat them, you can just pop them on a plate and put them in the microwave for about 30 seconds. Or another option is, in my house, when we reheat these, I pop them in the air fryer. So if you have an air fryer and you're comfortable using it, you can hit the little reheat button. Most of them have that, and it warms them up perfectly, and they're a little bit crunchy again. So just know that that is an option as well if you don't eat them all at once and you need to reheat them. Microwave, air fryer, just something to warm them back up. But here we have it, these warm and yummy egg and cheese tot breakfast bites. So I do hope you try and make these, or try and make them again. With just a few ingredients, we were able to make ourselves this delicious breakfast. So when you make them, let me know how it goes though. I love getting to hear from you. Leave me a comment, let me know if you have any questions, and you can even send me a picture of your breakfast bites and how they turned out, and maybe we'll get to show them on our next episode. Now, speaking of our next episode, on next week's episode, which is episode 14, we are learning how to make mini pizzas. These pizzas have a crunchy English muffin crust and a cheesy top, and they are pretty simple and quick to put together. In order to cook along and make these mini pizzas next week, these are the ingredients that you'll need to have in your kitchen. 1 English muffin, 1/4 cup shredded cheese, 2 tablespoons of pizza sauce. Well, friends, our time together today is almost over. I do hope you enjoyed learning how to make these breakfast bites. I know I had fun, and I already can't wait to cook together again next time. But before you say goodbye to this episode, make sure to click subscribe if you haven't already. You just have to click the little picture of me in the corner. That way you don't miss next week's episode, and I'll see you then. Bye, friends.